Welcome to our Fujinon versus Tokina zoom lens test. We're testing the MK series today versus the Tokina zooms. We have our 50 to 135, we have our 18 to 55, we have our Tokina 50 to 135, as well as the 16 to 28. Now, we're gonna be going through a lot of different tests with this glass, but first up, let's just kind of set the stage for everyone. I have a key light source that I have airy sky panels coming through. We have color corrected them to 5500 Kelvin perfectly. It matches exactly what the Sony cameras are set to, 5500 Kelvin. We have a nice little LUT that kind of matches the Area Alexa. So that's what you're gonna be viewing today. We have our color chart in here with our grayscale. Her face is around 55 to 65 IRE. We're like a 5, 6.5 at 1600 ISO on the Sonys, and a 2 on our fills. So we have like a 3.5 stop down ratio that we're playing with here. Our backlight is an 11, so we're 2.5 stops hot on that. And we have some nice bokeh in the background to be able to play with. All right, let's get this thing started. So we're going to start with our long glass, the 50 to 135. Now, putting this in my hand, it's fairly stout, 2.16 pounds. Its T-stop is a 2.9, and this is only an E-mount. That's why we have our Sonys out here today for our E-mount glass. So let's put this baby on. All right, Ben, focus that thing up so we can kind of look at that. All right, we'll get that all set. And let's go to wide open at a 2.9. Let's look at the focus on this baby. The Fujinon is looking at the minimum focus around 4 feet, obviously to infinity. Its focus throw is not bad, but the markings are in this no man's land of 15 to 20 feet. This is an area that you really want some really hard marks, and I'm not seeing anything there. And also 30 to 60 feet. It's just about a little tenth of a turn here between the two. And obviously we got our range of a 50 to 135 and closed all the way down as a 22. So there's our Fujinon. Let's move to the Tokina. Our Tokina is 3.4 pounds, so heavier, and obviously a whole different millimeter of our diameter. We'll go ahead and put our matte box on our Fujinon, so we're all set up there. The Tokina, minimum is a 3, so the Fujinon is like a tenth of a stop faster. Goes all the way to a 22, 50 to 135. The focus, you can see, is got a lot of nice markings, and it's also feels a little tighter as well. So, and that no man's land that I talked about on the Fujinon from 15 to 20, I have 15, 17, and 20 marked. So I only have one more marking on that. But I do have a good range between what they call the 30 to 60. I have 30, 40, 50, and 100. It's much shallower, obviously. The diameter on the glass is a little bigger. So let's put this on. All right, we'll set that to wide open. We got our 50 on there. Let's go ahead and focus that up on her. And we'll get our Uh-oh. I'll slide underneath there. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're focused all up, and we're going to start with a focus throw. Okay, so let's zoom in. What I want to find out, if I zoom all the way in and get critical focus on her face, and then I zoom out if they hold focus. So let's look at the Fujinon and see if that does that. All right, so we're good there. Now go ahead and zoom all the way out to a 50. Okay, it holds focus very nice. Now let's do the same with the Tokina. So let's focus right in on her face there, get hypercritical focus, and then we'll zoom out and make sure that it can hold focus as well. Okay, that looks nice. All right, now zoom out. And it holds focus great. Excellent, we got that. All right, now we're gonna go for distortion chart. So let's look at our Fujinon, slide our focus chart into the mark. Okay, so I'm definitely seeing distortion. The squares are kind of coming out. So it feels like they're coming out at camera. I'm seeing just a little bigger square down here than I am up there. I'm seeing a little bigger square than I am down there. So what I'm feeling is this bubbling out in the middle of the lens. Now, distortion is not bad either. I mean, I like a little distortion. My Cooke S4s that I absolutely love have a nice distortion field. All right, so let me slide it over for the Tokina. So we're square on, okay. Now this one has a little distortion, but not as much. Can you pan one camera so I can line it up perfectly so you can get both of them equal? The Tokina definitely has a flatter feel compared to the Fujinon. The Fujinon, look how narrow the squares are compared to how large the squares are on the Tokina. We're gonna see when Monette comes in there, the Tokina rounds her face. This is all based on just glass. All right, so now I'm going to pop the distortion chart out, and we're gonna go to a white field so we can see if there is any vignetting. Am I feeling a little vignette here? No, it seems like the field is pretty even. So now we're going to ask Monette to come in. Come on in, Monette, thank you so much. And we're going to be flaring the lens. So as my son Miles flares the lens, he's gonna flare the Fujinon first, we're gonna analyze that one, and then we'll move over to the Tokina. All right, so Miles is in position. Okay, so go ahead and pan it in, Miles. Yeah, right there, panning in, panning in. Be a little higher. Oh, come back down. Okay, pan left a little. Oh, come back. All right, so there's some nice, cool circles. You know, you're getting some greens and oranges, and then the blue at the end here. Raise it up real high as you can go, and now tilt it down into the lens. Okay, so this lens, if we have a very hot sun and we're looking at that, it's going to wash out pretty well. You can see the Tokina is doing the same thing. This is a very, very powerful light. We're actually using the K5600 200 watt Joker. Okay, so pan it left, Miles, slowly left. Left, left, left. Right there. Okay, now bring it down a little lower in your hand. Okay, yep. Okay, right. So it's now pan right. Ooh, right there. Yeah, so we're getting some very interesting colors, oranges and greens and blues and the purples. Okay, now go ahead and pan right. We're gonna look at the Tokina. Oh, right there. So the Tokina is giving us a whole different bouquet here. We're getting a lot, pan back left a little, Miles. Hold there. So I'm getting purpley into greenish into cyan tones, and the flares are much bigger because the Tokina is actually a bigger piece of glass. So we're getting those larger flares. Pan left, Miles. Pan left, pan left. Hold right there. Okay. Now pan back right. So yeah, the cyans, the purples. Now pan back left. With the Fujinon, I'm getting more of the greens and the oranges and the purpley blue. Okay, now let's just do a slow pan across. We're looking at the washout. Okay, now come across. See how we wash out. We're washing out a little yellow, and here we're washing out a little more whitish blue in the washout. You're like a lighthouse, Miles. You're like nuking. Is he burning you up, Monette? It's like her hair's like literally bursting into flames. I love it. All right, Miles, you're done. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and put that back. And now we are going to just look at these lenses in color. So Monette, look right at the cameras for me. Let me just check my false color here. Yeah, it's looking very close, so we're all good. Let's look at color on these pieces of glass. The Fujinon is looking fairly neutral, maybe a slight magenta cast in the glass. Handles the highlights very well. It's got really nice color separation, and it seems to have some nice contrast as well. Jumping to the Tokina, this seems a little more green in tonality, definitely lower contrast, so it doesn't have that snap. You can see by the side-by-side here that, you know, I have with the Fujinon, it seems to be much crisper, a little more contrast. The Tokina being a little green in tonality, not as good of color separation either. The Fujinon really pops off the screen. She really separates very nicely. I see the Tokina handling the highlights a little better because I'm looking at her hair here, and you know, it looks a little crisper around her top of her head. So, you know, maybe there's a little better, you know, highlight control on the Tokina, but overall the Fujinon is, for the dollar, it's doing really well. And you know, this glass is $500–600 more expensive than the Tokina, and I'm just loving how the Fujinon separates its color. A little magenta is not a bad thing. That's something we can easily dial out. And I like that it has that contrast and it looks nice and sharp. The Tokina is a softer piece of glass. So if you're going for that kind of a little more period feel, then the Tokina is going to be nice in that zoom range because it's going to be a little softer. But if you really want a little more 3D, because the Fujinon really is pushing the background away, where the Tokina is really flattening it out. So I would say the Fujinon is a nicer piece of glass for that sharper image and more three-dimensional quality.